Okay, we are back now. I'm just waiting for Ulutando to come back so that we wrap up the conversation. Yeah, it's been an intense one that's quite reflective. I think that question that we received had me really going. Just bringing in Nontle, welcome. Nontle, thank you for always tuning in. I know you and others always tune in. So we give ourselves, 15 minutes?
Yes. We're back.
Right. So what we can do, who would want to go first?
Let's give it over to.
Okay, so I just maybe just some key elements that I'd love anybody that is tuned in to take out of this. And for me, it's about the maturity to recognize that life does shape us, experiences do shape us. The lens that we see the world through, we're not always conscious of it, and we can't always take these goggles off. And we've got to just be adult about it to know that we know what we know, but we also don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And we are creatures of habit, we are creatures of patterns. And it's not just about being aware of the lens, but also I think the key word, if I had to kind of wrap this for me, the key word is take responsibility for what you can change today. It's so easy to blame the past, it's so easy to blame, as I said, your context, your culture, your parents, or this or that. But as men, I feel that we have to take responsibility for the fact that we can turn left.
Yeah.
We can change patterns. We can do things differently. We can acknowledge that things in the past have shaped us. We can acknowledge that culture shapes us. We can acknowledge that parents shape us. We can acknowledge that race shapes us. We can acknowledge that school shapes us, but we also take responsibility and stand behind the wheel or sit behind the wheel and force a changing patterns and have the ability to keep on turning left. So I feel it's very empowering for men to know that wherever you are is not where you have to be.
Yes.
You know, if you want to make a change, make a change. You're not a tree. You don't have to stand still. So you can keep on turning left and you can keep on making behavioral changes and patterns. You've got the power. That's for me responsibility and keep on turning left. That's for me.
Okay. Lutando?
Great. I just want to thank everyone who joined, to our loyal followers, to the new ones that joined us this week. I think tonight's topic and conversation there was a lot in it. So if anyone wants to maybe rewatch and capture some pieces, it will be available on Zeus's Instagram. And please do continue the engagement beyond the conversation. I think it certainly is great for us to understand, for feedback, but also to get a sense of really what are some of the conversations that we need to have. We continue to make this space a co-create space and a space for men to feel free, to feel comfortable, to feel heard. And we really appreciate the ladies that do join to gather some insights and some notes, as some have said. But yeah, thank you to Dr. Hanan for joining us. I think it was great. And thank you for availing yourself. I think it was our thinking was certainly to say, in the conversation we're having and the responses has been so great, is that let's bring in, we keep referring to professional help or different people we can speak to, but let's bring in an actual professional, right, who can just have a conversation and just bring some insights that may get someone thinking more gently, like, actually maybe let me just try this out, and I always believe that we always know our dark spots. right? Or the bad apples in our tree. And this is the time when we take responsibility to actually deal with those bad apples, right? Because it's been familiar with having it there, here's a way and here's a space that can help you start to pluck those apples so you can be better. And then my closing sentiments is just on what I said earlier is that I think as men, don't trivialize your well-being. Don't trivialize your mental well-being and your emotional well-being. Don't make it a thing of, oh, yeah, that thing, because there is strength, as Dr. Hanan said, in being vulnerable and being comfortable with being vulnerable. And there's definitely immense power, and I think I said this in the previous episodes, when you can present to a partner or a spouse and to your children a better you, and one that has dealt with critical things and problematic behaviors. And just remember that the behavior and the triggers you can't control. I mean, the triggers and the feelings you can't control, but your behavior you can. And for me, it's one of the things that I've was the hardest, but for me, also the greatest strength, because then right throughout in my work environment, and for those that may be able to rate some boardrooms, like I would just immediately be able to disengage or manage those better, because there's just this knowledge and strength, right, that I have around something that I've conquered for myself. And lastly, to close out, is take the time, or be deliberate in taking time for yourself, and use that time to know you. And I know in the first episode we covered the question around lonely, the difference between loneliness and being alone. Build yourself up with being alone. Make that a comfortable and a regular thing that you do, to be alone. And remember that loneliness is the insecurity with self, right? It means you're uncomfortable with being with yourself. So create more time to actually be comfortable of being alone. There's immense power in it, and you can do different things in that space. Meditating has certainly helped me. Some have do yoga or exercise, but create deliberate time to be alone, because out of that flows a lot of strength, because you get to really deal the different things that cloud our mind, our emotion and feelings, but also that's where you really get to see yourself. So that's what I want to close out with this week.
Okay. I think thanks to you, Hanan, for availing yourself and all the contributions that you're making. I think one thing is for the man who is tuned in now and didn't know that there is a male professional to whom he can go for assistance. Now he knows. Probably there are so many of you males in the, what can I say, in the psychology sector, if I may put it that way, who can help us, myself included, in our journeys as we go through life. And going and asking for help does not mean we are weak. It just means that we need assistance in getting things into perspective. A friend of mine, Uwanda, whose comment I've just pinned, he says, "Thanks, guys. This conversation reminds us how responsible we should be, and also to remind us that we are in a race where we can't stop until we reach the finish line." And that's very important. It also reminds me of of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he said, "Whatever you do, don't stop. If you have to crawl, crawl. If you have to walk, walk. But if you have to run, run. But just don't stop. Keep going." And lastly, I just want to share, Utumi recommended a book last week, "It Didn't Start With You" by Bell Hooks. and I found this part very interesting. I just want to read it to you. It says, what remains unconscious does not dissolve, but rather resurfaces in our lives as fate or fortune. Whatever is not conscious, he said, will be experienced as fate. In other words, we are likely to keep repeating our unconscious patterns until we bring them into the light of awareness. Both Young and Freud noted that whatever is too difficult to process does not fade away on its own, but rather is stored in our unconscious. Freud and Young each observed how fragments of previously blocked, suppressed, or repressed life experience would show up in the words, gestures, and behaviors of their patients. For decades to follow, therapists would see such clues as slips of the tongue, accident patterns, or dream images as messages shining a light into the unspeakable and unthinkable regions of the client's lives. Oh, sorry, it didn't start with you. It's by Mark. Mark something. To me has pinned it there. Just can't pronounce that word. But I loved this because it also talks to the topic that we've been discussing of triggers. That whatever it is that we haven't dealt with in the past, it comes back as there'll be something that triggers that behavior so that it then comes to the fore. But when it comes to the fore, it's for us to deal with it. By simply burying it, we're just giving that experience another opportunity to modify and come back even stronger. Almost like saying it comes back as a stronger devil. So we must face those things. We must deal with the experiences that we come across in our lives, because when we don't, they're really going to destroy us, and they're really going to destroy other people in our lives. And as I shared in the morning thoughts that I send in the mornings, that we have this box, and in that box, all the experiences keep going in, good and bad. And eventually, we take that box and we pass on to our children, or whoever down the line will inherit our genealogy. So we must make sure that we deal with those experiences in those boxes before they get sealed and passed on to the next person, so that what we have dealt with becomes tools that the next person can use. So think about it this way. If right now I've faced a challenge of pornography addiction, right? And I dealt with it and I conquered it. I've already given my children down the line a tool on how to conquer that. It will be there somewhere down the line, whether they ask me or they don't, but there will be that tool for them down the line. If I've been poor and I entered into business, became an entrepreneur, I've already given my children a tool with which to empower themselves economically. So we need to remind ourselves that things that we don't deal with, we eventually pass on. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you everyone who's tuned in. Hanan, we'll still be in touch going forward. Mr. Legend.
Wonderful. I look forward to the opportunity. It was great to have an honest conversation where everything gets put on the table. It's, for men to talk about men stuff is so relevant, especially where we are right now in our history. So yeah, I'm grateful for this interaction. Thank you and thank you.
Yeah. This is Conversation with Friends by Men for Men. Peace out. Good night, everybody.
Salute.